Let's get started on our overview of wide area networking. In this overview, we will look at the difference between a local area network and a wide area network, and we will look at methods of accessing the internet. We will look at the function of a router, at remote access, at VPN, which stands for Virtual Private Network, and we will look at cloud computing. Let's start out with the difference between a local area network and a wide area network. This is a diagram of a single segment local area network. It could be a building here at CCBC. This is a diagram of a multi-segment local area network, and it is a diagram of the CCBC Catonsville campus. A local area network is in one geographic area, and it is typically not more than 2 miles from one end to the other. That's a local area network. At the other extreme, we have a wide area network. In a wide area network, the nodes are much farther apart. In a wide area network, the nodes are hundreds and even thousands of miles apart. And of course, a perfect example of a wide area network is the internet. And if we look at the definition of internet, we see that it is an electronic communications network that connects computer networks and organizational computer facilities around the world. The internet allows us to send email to each other. The internet allows us to use the World Wide Web. Now let's look at methods of accessing the internet, either from a SOHO, which means a small office or a home office, or from a large organization. One method of accessing the internet is to use an old-fashioned modem. Modem stands for modulate, demodulate. And a modem is an electronics device that connects your computer to the telephone cable in the wall. The modem takes the digital signal, which is used by the computer, and converts it to an analog signal, which is used by the phone lines. The modem takes the digital signal, which is used by the computer, and converts it to an analog signal, which is used on the phone lines. The modem then pushes the signal over the old-fashioned telephone lines, and they call that POTS, plain old telephone system. And then the signal is received by another modem at the other end, which converts the analog signal back into a digital signal, and then delivers that signal to the computer at the other end. Modems are not really fast, but you can connect to the internet any place that has a telephone line. What many people are using these days to connect to the internet is not the old slow modem, but broadband cable. And broadband cable comes into your house using the cable TV coaxial connection. The cable TV coaxial connection connects to the cable modem, and then the cable modem connects to your computer at home. Or if you have a small office, the cable modem can connect to many computers. The single cable modem connection can connect to a small local area network at home or at work. Another method of connecting to the internet is to use DSL, which stands for Digital Subscriber Line. A digital subscriber line uses a digital signal on twisted pair cabling. Your computer can connect to a DSL connection. Now, it looks like a regular old telephone connector, but it has to support a digital signal, and that is supported in most major metropolitan areas like Baltimore and Washington, but certainly not out in the middle of nowhere. The computer connects to the DSL connection, which connects to the internet. You could have a single computer which connects to the DSL connection, but what many people have is they have multiple computers which are using Wi-Fi, which connect to a wireless router, which then connects to the DSL connection. And this is a very, very common setup that we see. Wireless computers connect to the wireless router, which connects to the DSL connection, which connects to the internet. If you are in a remote area of the country that doesn't have DSL or cable modem, then you can use satellite. Satellite was first used for direct TV, so people could get TV connection in places that did not support cable TV. To use satellite, the satellite goes on your roof, the satellite dish goes on your roof and connects to the satellite, and then the satellite dish can connect to your TV, or the coaxial connector can connect to your computer. You get a network interface card that plugs into the motherboard of your computer, and the coaxial cable plugs into the cable which goes into the satellite dish. Satellite is great when you need internet connectivity in remote areas. Another way to connect to the internet is to use 3G networking. And many portable computers have a cell phone built into them, and the cell phone allows those portable computers to connect to cell phone towers. But it doesn't look like this. This is what it looks like. This is a Verizon Air card, and this little blue box is actually a cell phone, and it plugs into the USB port of the computer and then allows the computer to connect to a cell phone tower. If you have a smartphone which uses 3G, then you can connect to a cell phone tower, and that is a method of accessing the internet. Now, what's the difference between Wi-Fi and 3G? They are both wireless technologies, but Wi-Fi only goes 300 feet from the workstation to the wireless access point. But with 3G, that is a line of sight from your computer to the cell phone tower, and that can be 5 to 10 miles in distance. A 4G network is really nothing but two 3G networks running in tandem. A 4G network provides greater bandwidth to a cell phone tower. And a Wi-Fi network is based upon 4G technology. If you look at this person's house right here, it does not have a cable running into it which goes to DSL or cable modem. It has a wireless connection that goes from the person's house to the cell phone tower, which then connects to the central office. This is called WiMAX. So you can see there are multiple ways of accessing the internet: old-fashioned modem, cable or DSL, satellite, 4G, or even WiMAX. But what if you are a large organization? CCBC has 3 main campuses, and we have 2,000 to 3,000 computers at each campus, and one DSL connection is not going to provide enough bandwidth for 2,000 to 3,000 computers. This is why we use dedicated leased lines. A T1 line was an early dedicated leased line that connects 2 different sites directly to each other. CCBC has leased lines connecting their main campuses together. Now, the first type of leased line they had was called a T1 line, and that provided 1.5 megabits per second, and at the time that was a big deal. And then they came out with T3, which provided 44 megabits per second. OC, which stands for optical carrier, meaning fiber optic. OC1 provides 51 megabits per second, and an optical carrier 2 provides 155 megabits per second, and we have 2 optical carrier 2s at each one of our main campuses. Comcast Business Class Internet provides high-speed internet speeds up to 64 times faster than traditional T1. The router provides the internet connection from a local area network to a wide area network. In a large organization, such as CCBC, we have a router which connects all of our local area networks together and which connects all the local area networks to the wide area network connection. And that would be a Cisco router for a large organization. But for a small organization, such as a small office, home office, you might have a wireless router which connects to the internet and which provides internet connectivity for the wireless users. Whether you have a large organization or a small organization, a router connects local area networks to the internet. Now let's discuss remote access networking. Let's discuss dial-up networking and VPN, which stands for Virtual Private Network. Back in the old days, if you wanted to connect from your computer at home to the computers at work, you would use an old-fashioned telephone line. You would use the old-fashioned telephone line to dial up to an old-fashioned modem, which would then connect to what they call the RAS server, the remote access server. And they also call that a dial-up server. And then you would go through the RAS server to connect to the other servers at work. This is called dial-up networking. But nobody really uses dial-up networking anymore. And telephone lines, everybody is using DSL and cable modem. People at home can connect to their internet service providers, and then corporate networks are connected to their own internet service provider, and then everybody is connected over the internet. So now, if you're at home and you want to access the servers at work, you go over the internet to access the servers at work. Of course, the disadvantage of that is there is a security risk of eavesdropping, because the internet is a public network. If you send private data over a public network, you are at risk of a bad guy with protocol analyzer stealing confidential data. That's the security risk. So the solution is encryption. And a VPN, a virtual private network, is an encrypted connection between one computer over the internet to the other computer. The virtual private network encrypts all data which is sent from the user over the internet to the corporate network. Here is another diagram of a virtual private network. The users at home on their computers connect over the internet to the corporate network, and all communication being sent over the internet is encrypted. This is a virtual private network. Now, let's discuss cloud computing. The definition of cloud computing is simply using the internet for computing, and we use the internet for just about everything that we do these days. In fact, it's hard to find something that is not cloud computing. Here's an example of not cloud computing. A user types up a resume on a computer and then saves it to the hard disk of that computer. That is not cloud computing because it doesn't use the internet. Well, let's look at some examples of cloud computing, such as email, or using a cloud server, or Windows Azure, or application virtualization. We'll start out with email. If you've used email, then you've used the internet, because the email servers use the internet to send the email from one email server to the other. Another form of cloud computing is to use a cloud server. A cloud server is a server which has an internet connection and which can be contacted from any other computer which has an internet connection. So you could be at Starbucks having a cup of coffee, working on a file, and you could save it up to a cloud server. And then you could go home later on from a different computer and you can still access those files on the cloud server. Google Docs is a perfect example of a cloud server. You can share your files up to a Google Docs server. A Google Docs server is just a big old server that can be accessed from the internet. And what you can do is you can save files up to the Google Docs cloud server. And then you could go home and still have access to those files, or you could save the files up to the Google Docs server and you could allow your coworkers to access those files. The Google Docs server is a centralized storage repository that can be accessed from any place that has an internet connection. Now let's look at Windows Azure. If you had a web page, you could store it on your own web server, which is at your own individual location. but maybe you don't want to have a web server at your place of business. You don't want to have to make sure that it's always up and running and has proper cooling at all times. Well, what you can do is you can store your web page on a cloud server, and that's what Windows Azure is. Instead of storing your web page on your own server at your own location, you store your web page up on a Microsoft's cloud server. And the advantage of that is that it's always up and it's always on, and you don't have to worry about the maintenance of the server. You store your web page up on a cloud server. Application virtualization is an example of running programs on a cloud server as opposed to simply saving files up to the hard disk on a cloud server. And a commercial example of application virtualization and cloud computing is TurboTax. TurboTax is a program that helps you calculate your taxes. And one thing that you can do is you can download the DVD and install it onto your own computer, or you can just connect directly to TurboTax's cloud server and do your taxes on TurboTax's cloud server. The old way of doing it would be to purchase the DVD and to install TurboTax on your own individual computer. But the new way is to use application virtualization, is to connect to TurboTax's web server and then to run the TurboTax program on TurboTax's cloud server. And the advantage of that is you don't have to install TurboTax on your own computer. You can start your taxes on your computer at work, and then you could finish your taxes on your computer at home. A big advantage of cloud computing is convenience and productivity. With cloud computing, you can work from virtually anywhere at any time. In summary, in this section, we looked at the difference between a local area network and a wide area network, and we looked at methods of accessing the internet. We saw the purpose of a router is to connect the local area network to the wide area network. We looked at remote access computing at VPN, virtual private networking, and at cloud computing. And this concludes our overview of wide area networking.